What's up guys, Aaron Bennett here. Some critical Celsius network information in this video. I'm going to talk about right now, is there a difference between custody and earn? And if you have your crypto in one or the other accounts, will that put you first in line? Second, I'm going to talk about a huge hole they had in their balance sheet in July 2021. Did Celsius Network give under-collateralized loans to third parties? I'm going to talk about that as well. I'm going to talk about if Celsius is still liquidating retail loans. So if you have a loan and you are thinking, should I add more collateral? Should you do that? And will they liquidate you? I'm going to talk about the crazy number that Celsius wants to pay their payroll for the next 30 days, even though they have filed bankruptcy. And I'm also going to talk about Celsius's plan to make everything right in this video. And at the end of the video, I'll finish everything up just with my thoughts going into the week, going into the proceedings of Chapter 11. So before I touch on those exact points, I'm just going to go through and summarize this statement, this declaration from Alex Mashinsky. It starts out by saying that basically any crypto we sent to Celsius was owned by Celsius. The users transfer, quote, all right and title of their crypto assets, including ownership rights. And basically, this allows them to pledge, repledge, rehypothecate, sell, lend, or otherwise transfer or use in Celsius's full discretion. Now, this is something that I have had an issue with because what Alex Mashinsky was saying on every single AMA, on every single interview, really did not portray how much we were giving Celsius the right to do whatever the hell they wanted with now their crypto. Again, it no longer became our crypto the moment we sent it into Celsius, and this is a huge problem that I have. And they even said in their terms of service that the company made it clear that cyber attacks, extreme market conditions, or other operational or technical difficulties which could result in immediate halt of transactions either, get this, temporarily or permanently. So it was all there in the TOS. Now, I, again, have seen every AMA and made a video on every single AMA, recapping it for about 2 years now. And there was nothing, again, in those AMAs that really disclosed verbally how much of a risk we were taking by sending money into Celsius. So in this declaration, Alex talks about how the company made, in hindsight, what proved to be certainly poor asset deployment decisions, which obviously we can agree is true. So Celsius basically gives the entire summary of what led them up to the moment right before they had to pause the withdrawals and then declare bankruptcy. And the issue, as Celsius said, is that some of their crypto is tied up in long-term and illiquid crypto deployment activities. For example, they had crypto assets that have been loaned to third parties. Some of the Celsius assets have been pledged in support of borrowing or sold to generate cash used to acquire Bitcoin mining equipment and the GK8 storage business. So our crypto that we sent to Celsius was being used to basically grow their company with Bitcoin mining, taking loans against our crypto, which is then their crypto, also expanding into GK8 and basically expanding their entire enterprise. Celsius says they were unable to meet user withdrawals and provide collateral to support its obligations. So essentially it was either, hey, we can pay everybody, or we're going to get liquidated on our loans. And here they said the pause was intended to prevent certain users who were first to act from being paid in full while leaving other users behind. And honestly, I think this is kind of BS. So I highlighted this part because it's interesting. It says during this period, basically end of 2021 or so, the inflows of crypto onto Celsius's platform outpaced withdrawals. And they basically said, hey, things started going bad when there were more withdrawals than there were inflows, which makes me think of that word that starts with a P and ends with onzi. But I'm not saying that. That is a legal term, and if that comes out, wow, that'll be rough. So in this paragraph, they talk about the Earn program, and what I want to touch on is something that doesn't quite make sense, especially what Alex was telling us. It says Celsius pays rewards to users based on the rates published in advance, and regardless of the yield generated by Celsius. So essentially what Alex was saying all these years is that they will change the rates based upon market conditions, based upon how much demand there is to borrow, based upon how much they are generating in yield. Here it says regardless of the yield generated by Celsius. So it's a little bit confusing how both of those things can be true. And now they're talking about the borrowing services, and I'll read you this. Similar to the EARN program, Celsius holds title to digital assets transferred by borrowers as collateral and, get this, is permitted to rehypothecate such collateral. So I guess none of this is really a surprise. Essentially, we give them money. Let's say we give them 4 Bitcoin and we want to take a 25% LTV loan. They give us 1 Bitcoin as a loan, and we're giving them 4 Bitcoin as collateral. Now, with that 4 Bitcoin, that Bitcoin isn't just sitting there. They are using that Bitcoin to lend out, take loans against, basically do whatever they want. Take on margin, take leverage, do market making activities, do swing trading, which I'll get to in a moment. So really, there was so much going on behind the scenes that, ironically, the whole we're going to open our kimono, as Alex says, what actually happened with Celsius is coming out to be very not transparent, and all the data was not out in the open, which I'll get to talking about their hole they had in 2021. So let's talk about institutional borrowers. For retail, if I wanted to borrow 1 Bitcoin, I would have to give them at least 2. There was at least, I believe, a 50% LTV model. But here, talking about what they did with companies, depending on the creditworthiness of the counterparty, Celsius may provide institutional borrowers with either secured or unsecured loans. And I'll get to this more later on this video. Essentially, they were letting people borrow more money than they were posting as collateral. And a lot of that got Celsius in trouble with Three Arrows Capital. Same thing with Voyager. They were basically saying, hey, you can borrow $500 million, but just give us a little bit in collateral, or maybe don't give us anything, a completely unsecured loan because we trust you. You're a trustworthy player in the crypto space. Clearly they weren't, because they got taken out by Terra, but I'll get to more of that later in the video. So let's talk about the custody service. Now, I believe it was April 2022 this year. For non-accredited US investors, they basically said, hey, we're going to open up this crypto custody account, and if you transfer any new assets, they're going to go into your custody account. And I think everybody had the opportunity to switch. But I want to read this quote to you guys. For clarity, the assets held in the custody service do not earn rewards, obviously, and the assets held in custody shall, quote, at all times remain with the user, and, quote, Celsius will not transfer, sell, loan, or otherwise rehypothecate those crypto assets in custody unless, quote, specifically instructed by the user. What they're saying is that they will not transfer, sell, loan, or otherwise rehypothecate. There is a different set of parameters that I hope holds up in court, depending on if your crypto was in custody or in earn. So this could be good news for maybe some of you guys watching this. And let's talk about their mining operation. So they basically took a loan out for their mining. The loan is a long-term investment in mining that is expected to generate significant yield for the company. So they didn't just buy mining equipment. They didn't just say, hey, we have this cash, we're going to invest that cash into income-producing Bitcoin generating assets, miners, whether that's the actual facilities or the actual hardware. No, they took a loan. They're taking loans for everything here. So everything was basically leveraged. There was collateral posted to get a loan. And Celsius still owes $576 million to the company, or to whoever they got the loan for the miners for, how I'm reading this as of May 31st. So these assets, these mining assets, are not free and clear owned by Celsius. They still owe money. Here they're talking about why they paid off all of those DeFi loans was basically to get all that collateral back, which is what I thought was happening. Basically, they wanted to figure out exactly how much money they had before they declared Chapter 11, which is exactly what happened. So now they're talking about how they deployed our crypto, which then became their crypto. So the first one, cash and carry, talking about getting involved in the futures market to benefit from the funding costs that long futures holders were willing to pay to short holders. So they were getting really into the weeds of trading. This was not some peer-to-peer, very simple income-producing model. Obviously, we're learning that now. They were doing market making. They were doing swing trading. They were also doing spot trading. So they were doing basically a ton of trading. And had I known about how much they were just kind of degen trading everywhere and how much they were doing behind the scenes to hopefully make this yield, it obviously would not have been worth it had we known exactly how much risk they were taking. So here they're talking about some losses in their business. So in June 2021, Stakehound, an ETH2 staking service provider, announced that it had misplaced the keys to over 38,000 ETH tokens, including 35,000 of Celsius's Ether, due to an error from Fireblocks. So I don't remember hearing that at all, meaning I heard this about 2 months ago, that there was some issue losing Ethereum. Had I known that in June 2021, basically when the market was peaking, or a little bit after that first peak, after it hit like 64 grand or so, that they lost so much Ethereum, I would have reconsidered being like, what are they doing? How can they lose that much of their money, right? So there's so many red flags that are obviously red flags now that we really did not know about. And I want to cover that hole in their balance sheet that happened July 2021. So when Celsius attempted to repay one of its loans, it was informed for the first time that the lender was unable to return the company's collateral, which resulted in Celsius having an approximately $509 million of uncollateralized claims against this party. So July of 2021, they had a hole in their balance sheet apparently of $509 million because whatever company they took a loan from, this company was like, hey, we can't repay your collateral. That's huge. Had I known that a year ago, I think most of us would have removed our money from Celsius, being like, holy crap, $500 million? What are we going to do about this, guys? Like, Alex, what are you going to do about this? So again, it's these secrets on top of secrets, these non-disclosures, these hidden facts, these things that really would have changed whether you or I would have put more money in and kept our crypto inside of Celsius. It's these facts that we're now hearing about how shaky their business was, how much risk they were taking 1, 2, even 3 years back, and how basically the only reason they were staying afloat was because the numbers were going up. The amount of money they had was going up. The amount of people taking loans was going up. It was basically just like, if number go up, we stay safe. If everyone withdraws while number goes down, when the crypto market goes down, we're in trouble. I mean, that is a shitty business model. And I love this quote. It's just hilarious. Celsius believes that it would have likely succeeded in the near future if the market had remained relatively stable. Well, you know what? If you're a company managing billions of dollars, you need to factor in freaking every outcome. You know that every 4 years we go into a bear market. Guess what, Celsius? You should have planned for this. So now they're talking a little bit about Three Arrows Capital. Basically, 3AC owes Celsius $40.6 million right now. And they're talking a little bit about things I've talked about before, the depegging of that staked Ether, the misleading media coverage, right, from people on Twitter, from people on YouTube, which basically caused this bank run. People were withdrawing their crypto at a massive rate. Now, I was covering the AMAs when I remember they shared this. Inflows, 400 million or so. Outflows 1.15 billion. And I was thinking to myself, wow, if this continues for a few more weeks, that will really hurt. And clearly it did. And here they repeat that they could have either processed withdrawals or they could have added collateral to the DeFi protocols to basically avoid liquidation. So they're basically justifying their behavior. They're like, we could have either given everybody the money or we could have basically given that money to DeFi to basically take out all that collateral, which is a good idea, but now they don't have enough money, obviously, to pay all of us back. So now let's get to a hilarious part. This is how much money they want to pay their people for the 30-day period following Chapter 11. So get this, payments to employees, not including officers, directors, and stockholders. So this is not including, I believe, Alex, Nuke, Daniel, and the officers. This is just their employees. $3.45 million for 30 days. That's a lot of money. They had, I think, 800 employees. They laid off a good chunk, I think over 100. So that's like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 per employee if you were to split it up equally. I mean, I guess that's okay if they still have to pay people, but I mean, like $3.45 million, yikes. But this is the part that's the real kicker right here. They want to pay $730,000 for the next 30 days. So basically in 1 month, 730 grand to officers, directors, and stockholders. So we know that Alex is a director. We have Daniel that's a director. We have probably Nuke. And a lot of these people are going to be directors, officers, etc. We have Roni Cohen. We have Oren, most likely as an officer here, chief compliance officer, all these people that have been on the AMAs for years. So that is a nice little payday that they want to sneak in there, basically being like, we need to pay ourselves $730,000 for the month. I mean, do you really need to do that? I mean, come on, guys. So I want to finish the video talking about their plan. Now, this is a PDF that they released that will be, I believe, in the courts tomorrow, Monday, or today when you're watching this, when these Chapter 11 proceedings really begin to take off. So here Celsius says these are the next steps. Preserve value while negotiating a comprehensive restructuring transaction with stakeholders. Okay. Use Bitcoin minted by the mining operations to help fund mining operations and grow their Bitcoin holdings. Basically, use the Bitcoin to help pay us back. Consider asset sales and third-party investment opportunities. They did talk about selling GK8, and maybe they could sell some of their subsidiary companies to basically create more money. And finally, file and confirm a Chapter 11 plan that will, 1, provide customers with the option at the customer's election to recover either cash at a discount, basically take a haircut, or remain, quote, long crypto, basically keep crypto there and wait for the price of crypto to go up. 2, maximize returns for the stakeholders. Most likely this does not apply to you since you are not an equity stakeholder in Celsius. And 3, reorganize the Celsius business. So this really leads into Simon Dixon's plan. In a nutshell, Simon's plan is take a haircut on how much money you get back. That's just a fact. Celsius lost a lot of the money we put in. 2, it'll be using the Bitcoin mining to help pay us back, which they do talk about in this PDF. And 3, it would be restructuring the company or creating a new company and us getting a percentage of equity to help make us whole again if this new company can be successful. And I mentioned at the beginning of this video, are they still liquidating loans? Well, right here under current status of operations, if you head here to the borrow program for retail people like you and I, so right now, after the petition, after July 13th, it says Celsius is no longer liquidating retail loans or demanding margin calls, but accepting loan repayments and continuing to hold coins posted as collateral. So how I interpret this is that they're not going to liquidate you, and they're not going to demand margin calls. So not financial advice, but what I'm reading is that if you have a margin call on a loan, let's say Bitcoin has to go to like 13,000, and let's say it kind of goes down to 13,000, they're not going to liquidate you. Now, what will happen to that collateral? That's yet to be determined. We don't know exactly how Chapter 11 is going to redistribute those coins back to us in what percentage or how that's going to work. So there's a PDF on the screen right here. And what I heard from another lawyer in the space is that you can basically apply to be on the official committee of unsecured creditors. Now, what this lawyer said, I think is David Silver, a crypto lawyer, he said basically, if you have less than $1 million in Celsius, most likely they're not going to approve you to be on this board. So if you are a whale and if you have multiple millions of dollars on the platform, this is something where you could potentially apply to become on the board, and this will allow you to have a much more direct impact in what direction Celsius takes when all the different plans are laid out before the committee. So I will include this link below if you want to fill it out. Anybody can fill it out, but what this lawyer said again is basically if you are a small fish and if you don't have millions of dollars, most likely you're not going to be approved. But if you want, you could definitely fill this out. And I believe you have to send this in before July 21st, 2022, 12 p.m. Well, what are a few things that could help us right now? Well, praying, but that's obvious. Bitcoin going up, because that'll help everybody. And also this whole ETH2 merge, which right now is scheduled because they always delay it, to happen in September. If those things happen, if Bitcoin goes up in price and the Ethereum merge happens very soon, then those things could potentially really help us right now getting our coins back or getting more of our coins back. But other than that, guys, that's all I have for you. Obviously, things really begin today, Monday. It's about 1 a.m. when I'm recording this, so I will update you guys with more videos. So guys, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already so you do not miss any updates in the future. All right, guys, talk with you soon, and bye for now.